All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and just a quick one today. So Michael Burry is allegedly, if he's still holding his puts, down 36% on his famous short position that he took, which was allegedly to the tune of $1.6 billion. Of course, that was any notional value. Anyway, that is what it is. Here is a live look at the current state of the market. Of course, Nvidia due to report earnings today, and so it really could go either way. That is, of course, going to be the big focus of after hours today and into the rest of the week. Of course, on Friday, we've got the Jackson Hole Symposium, and have a look at this, right? We would be buyers of equities starting Wednesday today, even if we're only in close proximity to a low, and therefore perhaps we could see further downside in the short term. But since 2003, there's been 7 instances where the S&P was down 2 weeks prior to a Jackson Hole Symposium, and 6 out of those 7 instances, equities rose in the week post Jackson Hole. So you can see right here, since we are down ahead of Jackson Hole, historically speaking, 6 out of 7 times, we should be higher into next week. So it tells us that even if there is one more undercut to make, in fact, let me just pop in here so we can be really clear about this. Even if we have not made a cycle low here, even if we're going to pop up, roll over, undercut that low for that classic 2 drives pattern, and then mark this as a swing low and go again. Even if that's the case, so instead of this being a day 38 cycle low, we'll end up perhaps with a day 42 cycle low. This data set right here tells us to be open to seeing better than expected outcomes walking forward. I also found this, and I thought to myself, in the interest of being objective, right, in the interest of looking at every possible outcome, it's possible, of course, number one, that the top is in for the year and we're going to go lower. Probably not as vertical down as that, to be honest. As you know, I've been championing this idea that we will run the all-time high and then have some kind of credit event. But in the interest of full disclosure, it is, of course, possible that better than expected things are coming for the stock market for a long, long time going forward. Now, the reason I don't believe this is a likely outcome is because I think something's going to break. I think the system needs to break. The interest rates, I mean, you already know all this, right? I don't have to list a million reasons why. But I think something is likely going to break. We're also seeing that thing, the scam that ran around 2019 for a few years and spread around the world. We're likely going to have to deal with a resurfacing of that, since we are starting to see them lay the groundwork for that in the news already. We're starting to see talk of variants and whatever else. So maybe we're going to get one of these events, a secondary one of these. Maybe that's what they blame the credit event on. I don't know. But like I said, in the interest of full disclosure, this is one outcome. We can't say anything other than that is a possibility. Like I said, I don't think it's very likely, but it certainly is on the cards. And of course, if that's on the cards, then we'll just treat it like any other huge secular bull market, right? We'll just draw the trend line underneath, and all the while the market keeps making higher highs and higher lows and hasn't violated long-term support, then we'll just continue to push the longs, right? Bitcoin had a little move down overnight, but since then it has made lower lows in price and higher lows on the oscillator. So this is a bullish divergence. Bob Lucas came in here and said, look, this is the first real chance for Bitcoin to put a cycle low behind it. First, it needs to get through 26.4 to start a run. So look out for that. If we can get through 26.4, there is a little bit of optimism ahead of us. In theory, the max pain is to take out the June loans briefly and then run it up. From a cycle standpoint, as I've been saying over and over again, and so has Bob, the cycles tell us we should at least see a couple of weeks of upside, even if that upside is muted, before we then form a left translated cycle and roll over. Whilst I'm mentioning these left translated cycle terms, if you're unfamiliar with all of this, the good news is on Wednesday, I've got a cycles masterclass video coming out. So look out for that this time next week. But I have to agree with Lewis. This is kind of my sentiment at the moment, right? Like I keep saying over and over again, all the while we're above 25k, it's impossible for me to be bearish. And in fact, 24.7k is my line in the sand. That is the prior cycle low. All the while we're above that, then we have not taken out the prior cycle. We have not printed a failed cycle. And therefore, the chart is technically still confirming a bottom. All the while we're above 25k, all the while we're above the prior cycle low, then we are still bullish. I cannot possibly be bearish until those conditions are violated. But I have to agree with Lewis here. The more time passes, the more it feels like we've already put in the yearly top. And Bob came back here and said, look, it's possible. We will know soon. And we will. Because if I hop into a Bitcoin chart, either this prior cycle low is going to hold, and so is 25k, meaning we have indeed left a bottom behind, and we flipped that bottom into support. And therefore, if we're going to hold these lows, hold the yellow line, hold the range breakout, and truly leave a cycle behind us, then we could be open to seeing upside here. But if that doesn't happen pretty soon, then you know what else is going to happen, right? what on earth am I doing? You know what else is going to happen? Something like this, right? Breakdown, and then that 60-day cycle low is coming next. There's not a lot between here and 22 and 20-ish. And if we were to lose that, there's really not a lot between 20-ish and the lows, of course. So I don't want to be that guy. I want to remain positive and hopeful. But like I said, lose this big level of support and particularly take out the prior cycle and the chart will have spoken for me. So we need to see 26.4 broken to start a run and truly leave this cycle low behind. If not, then who knows, right? Who knows? As ever, one day at a time. It's the only way you can do it. So I found this. I know I've shown this before, but I just like this so much I thought I'd share it again. This is the probability of winning the Powerball. And down here is the probability of guessing any Bitcoin private key with a balance. And here is at the very bottom, the probability of guessing a specific Bitcoin private key. So Bitcoin is so secure that the odds of somebody being able to guess your private key are the equivalent to winning the Powerball 8 times in a row. So as long as you can get over the price volatility, at least you can sleep easy at night knowing that nobody is ever going to guess your private keys. This has been doing the rounds that some wallet in the past few months has accumulated over 118,000 Bitcoin. There's some speculation going around. Maybe this is BlackRock. Maybe it's a whale. Maybe it's one of the 2,500-ish billionaires on the planet finally working out that they need to get an exposure. For now, all of this remains speculation. Nobody really knows. But it is certainly interesting to see big players stepping into the game. So I've got a couple of updates for you in the charts. First of all, I got long on this breakout, this early entry. So this is a higher risk scenario than waiting for a break of the red line, which would have been a truly confirmed daily cycle. There is always the chance, especially if Nvidia miss and we get, sentiment soured, we could always roll over and undercut that low. But all I'll do is just re-enter again once we find a swing and confirm it. I prefer to take an early entry here. It means I can get a bigger position. It is statistically more likely to fail than if I'd have waited for the later entry. But again, I just like to do this and we'll see what the market will give from here. I also added a NASDAQ long, which as of yesterday was right around break even, and I've checked the futures and it is very marginally in profit as we speak. But of course, if Nvidia miss, and that's kind of my expectation. Like I was thinking about this after I put this position on, after the market closed, I was sat there thinking, is this a really stupid trade? Because if you asked me, would I take a long on Nvidia and gamble on Nvidia not gapping down today? I would have said absolutely not. There's no way I want to be long Nvidia going into earnings. This is Nvidia with the market right now. So is this a really dumb trade? And is it to be expected that Nvidia is going to miss and this is going to happen? Maybe, but either way, that is why we size our stops appropriately. That is why even if I get stopped, it's not going to hurt my account. And that is why all we do is take the long, respect the breakout, and see what the market will give. So, of course, Nvidia, there's always a chance it could gap up and this could blast off, in which case that would be nice. But as it stands anyway, I added the longs for the S&P and the NASDAQ as I said I would. Here's Nvidia. First of all, we've had a big breakout, right? We've had a breakout, a move higher. Some areas of interest. At least I'm going to be watching this, even though I've chosen not to trade this into earnings, because I do think there's a big gap right here, isn't there? There's a massive gap. So is this coming? Is a gap fill coming? I don't know. I wouldn't like to guess. It's also entirely possible that we could run the all-time high. And if we do, then what we will have is a base that's been built and an emergence from that base. And that is classic Minervini breakout trading 101. So stage 2 uptrend, if we can emerge from bases, then there's certainly no reason why we couldn't expect higher numbers. I would think this thing's going to move violently. The only way I could be wrong on my expectations of this is if it basically does nothing. But I think it's probably going to either 600 or 300. That's how I see it. I am yet to add the long for the Dow. I want to see a little bit more follow through and a breakout. If so, the long will look just like that. And here is my VIX short. So still pushing this, hoping to see a move back down to the range lows, and then we'll cover this short. Still watching these crypto related equities. I'm not going to go through them because you already know the deal, right? But we are still watching these crypto related equities, still waiting for breakouts. And if we can get them, then we'll add the longs. So far, kind of just sitting right under resistance. Nothing much going on for Apple. Tesla, can it get a breakout? That is, of course, to be determined. Silver is pushing up and back into profit, as you can see here. So we'll keep pushing that trade. I don't have any gold exposure at the moment, although there's a good chance we have left behind a cycle low. I'm going to give it a little bit. I tell you what I prefer the look of, and that is the gold miners right here and the junior miners right here. So get a breakout, and I think I would rather play silver and the miners and leave gold alone for the time being. Like I said at the start, everything really comes down to Nvidia. We'll see what can happen there. Once Nvidia's out the way, we can look out to Jackson Hole on Friday, and then of course we will see what happens going into next week. Like I showed you earlier, tells us to keep an open mind about seeing a positive week next week, but we may have to have one more undercut of a low and mark a 42-day cycle low instead of a 38-day cycle low. But as ever, we take it one day at a time. We'll see what the market can give. No emotions, no bias. And hopefully we can get some nice trending markets over the next couple of weeks. So until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.